The world moves fast outside your door. Cars rush past, crowds gather, voices blend into endless noise. But inside, there's something different, a kind of peace that wraps around you like your favorite blanket. While everyone else seems programmed to seek the next social gathering, the next networking event, the next reason to be anywhere but home, you find yourself genuinely preferring the quiet sanctuary of your own space.
And you've probably wondered, maybe even worried, if something is wrong with you. Spoiler alert, there isn't. In fact, what's happening in your mind when you choose home over the outside world is far more fascinating than you might imagine. Let's start with the most fundamental truth about human psychology. We're not all wired the same way, despite what society's extrovert-favoring narrative wants us to believe. When you prefer staying home, your brain is actually engaged in a complex dance of neurotransmitters, energy management, and sophisticated self-regulation that reveals something profound about how you process the world.
The science begins with dopamine, that famous feel-good chemical everyone talks about. Here's what most people don't understand. Extroverts and introverts have fundamentally different dopamine reward systems. For someone who thrives on social interaction, their brain releases significant dopamine hits from external stimulation. Meeting new people, experiencing novel environments, engaging in rapid-fire conversations, these activities flood their system with pleasure chemicals.
But for those who prefer staying home, the dopamine sensitivity is different. Your brain doesn't need as much external stimulation to reach optimal dopamine levels. In fact, too much can actually become overwhelming, pushing you past your pleasure threshold into anxiety territory.
This isn't a deficit, it's a difference. Your mind operates on what psychologists call a higher baseline arousal level. You're already more internally stimulated, more aware of subtle environmental cues, more attuned to your own thoughts and feelings. Going out into chaotic, unpredictable environments doesn't add value, it subtracts it by pushing you into sensory and social overload.
Then there's the acetylcholine factor, something rarely discussed in mainstream psychology circles. While dopamine drives extroverts, introverts and home-preferring individuals get their neurochemical satisfaction from acetylcholine, which is released during introspection, deep thinking, and focused attention. When you're home, reading a book, working on a creative project, or simply sitting with your thoughts, your brain is actually lighting up with pleasure. You're not avoiding life, you're engaging with it in a way that your specific neurology finds rewarding. The energy equation reveals even more about what's happening in your mind. Human beings have limited cognitive and emotional resources, what psychologists call ego depletion. Every social interaction, every decision, every novel stimulus requires you to spend from this finite pool. For people who prefer staying home, social situations are particularly expensive.
You're not just having a conversation, you're managing facial expressions, monitoring tone, reading subtext, regulating your responses, and maintaining social performance. It's exhausting work that happens largely beneath conscious awareness.
Home becomes the place where you stop performing. The mask comes off. The constant monitoring ceases. Your nervous system finally gets permission to down-regulate from its vigilant state. This isn't laziness or social anxiety, though it can coexist with those things. It's intelligent energy conservation. Your mind recognizes that the return on investment from most social outings simply isn't there. The energy spent rarely matches the fulfillment gained.
What's particularly revealing is how home-preferring individuals process meaning and connection. There's a pervasive myth that meaningful connection only happens face-to-face in social settings, but research in depth psychology shows something different. People who prefer staying home often have richer internal lives, more complex emotional landscapes, and deeper one-on-one relationships. Quality over quantity isn't just a preference, it's how your mind constructs meaning. Your brain finds shallow small talk at parties not just boring, but actually aversive because it violates your meaning-making system. You're built for depth, and depth requires time, space, and freedom from distraction. The control factor is equally significant. When you're home, you control your sensory environment, your social interactions, and your schedule. For minds that are highly sensitive to environmental stimuli, this control isn't optional, it's necessary for optimal functioning. Outside your home, you're subject to unpredictable noises, unexpected social demands, and situations you didn't choose. Your nervous system has to stay in a state of preparedness, burning resources to stay ready for whatever comes next. At home, your mind can finally relax into a state of true rest. Modern neuroscience also reveals fascinating patterns in the default mode network of people who prefer solitude. This is the brain system active when you're not focused on the outside world, when you're daydreaming, remembering, imagining, and self-reflecting. For those who love staying home, this network tends to be particularly active and well-developed. You're not doing nothing when you're alone. You're engaged in the crucial human activities of memory consolidation, future planning, creative synthesis, and identity formation. Your mind is working, just not on external tasks. The autonomy aspect cuts deep into human psychological needs. According to self-determination theory, autonomy is one of 3 fundamental human needs alongside competence and relatedness. When you choose to stay home, you're exercising pure autonomy. You're making choices based on your genuine preferences rather than social pressure, FOMO, or the need to maintain appearances. This act of authentic choosing, of honoring your real needs over external expectations, is psychologically nourishing at a profound level. There's also something to be said about the relationship between home preference and creativity. Many of history's greatest thinkers, artists, and innovators were notorious homebodies. Proust rarely left his cork-lined room. Emily Dickinson became increasingly reclusive. Darwin did his best work in the quiet of his study. The pattern isn't coincidental. Creative work requires sustained attention, freedom from interruption, and mental space to let ideas percolate and connect. Your preference for staying home might actually be your creative mind protecting the conditions it needs to flourish. The authenticity factor reveals perhaps the deepest psychological truth. When you prefer staying home, you're refusing to fragment yourself for social consumption. You're maintaining psychological integration, staying whole rather than splitting into the person you are and the person you perform as. This integration is the foundation of mental health and genuine self-esteem. Every time you honor your preference for home, despite social pressure to do otherwise, you're strengthening your relationship with your authentic self. So the next time someone asks why you'd rather stay home, or when that voice in your head questions whether you're missing out, remember this. Your mind isn't broken or antisocial or afraid. It's sophisticated, energy efficient, and operating according to its own valid blueprint for well-being. You're not avoiding life by staying home. You're living it in the way that makes neurological, psychological, and personal sense for who you are. And that's not just okay, it's exactly as it should be. Your home isn't a hiding place. It's your headquarters, your laboratory, your sanctuary. It's where your particular kind of mind does its best work and finds its deepest peace.